Hey, everybody.
Hey Barry, how's it going, man?
Doing good, Jeremy. How are you?
Good, good. So I want to ask you about Tommy DeVito, obviously a new quarterback in here that had his position before you had your position at Illinois. So what's been your interaction with him and what's been your impression of him and his fit in your offense?
Well, I think it's he was one of the first guys that I reached out to when I took the job, and we most all the quarterbacks we talked, and he was certainly one. We had a good initial conversation, and then just kind of slowly and surely you're chipping away at that relationship. And there's nothing that expedites that relationship more than being on the field for practice. Just some limited interaction with all of them, which has been good and positive. But I'm really excited about getting on the field and actually starting to have those interactions as we go about our business from an individual standpoint, team, and then film corrections in the war room with each other. So all that's coming down the pipe real fast, and excited about the opportunity to work on those relationships with all the guys.
I know Tommy's here for a year. So what's the importance of getting him in here for spring ball, and what is the importance with you guys having all of that time together?
Yeah, that's super critical. Every rep, every practice just makes such a significant difference. I mean, there's just no substitute for it. And I think all football coaches can speak to this, at least the ones that were affected 2 years ago. When I first went to UTSA 2 years ago, there was a COVID year with no spring ball. And I think that was a real enlightening moment for me as a coach to have a greater appreciation for what exactly those 15 practices mean. Because, all of a sudden we're getting ready for a game 2 weeks out before camp starts. And that was the amount of time you got to teach and instruct. And there's just no substitute for Bill to have a guy, here at the initial stages of installing the offense and then making it come to life through practices. So I think this is going to be a real valuable time for him.
And just what'd you see of him on film? I know he brings a lot of confidence. It seems like that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think I know it is. It's authentic, and I think that's important for it to be organic. I think that's just kind of how Tommy carries himself, and I think he should be, confident in his abilities, and he's played a lot of football over the last several years and has made a lot of good plays, and I think that's certainly going to show, and it has shown in the way he goes about his business and meetings. And again, like I said, all this is, meeting room stuff is great, and mat drills, that's really good. It's all important stuff. But now as we peel that back and get to be on the field, I think I'm going to learn a whole lot more about not just Tommy, but the rest of the room and the rest of the offense as we get going tomorrow.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Coach. Coach Bielema is kind of starting from scratch with the offense after year one. A new coordinator, new offense, new scheme, and this is the first time you've had your eyes on these players. So, what are some of the challenges, in breaking in a new offense in the spring, and how much of it do you think you can get installed by the end of spring ball?
Yeah, I think obviously, anytime you're starting over, you're starting a new language, right? That's really that's the base challenge. A lot of the same plays schematically. There's only so many plays out there, right? I mean, there's just so many plays. It's about how you name them, how you apply them. For us, certainly maybe even the pace is something that's going to be unique and different. So just in general, those are just some of the initial thoughts I have about some of the challenges, right? So it's a new terminology. So everybody's learning a new language. Guys have done a really good job of spending time on their own, developing and understanding what's going on. But again, there's no substitute for doing live action in the course of a quick turnaround of in between whistles and trying to snap the ball maybe a little bit quicker, more quickly than what has been done before. So, from a language standpoint, and then me getting to know them and them getting to know me as a coach and as their leader. Really spent an extensive amount of time with our staff offensively, and they've been awesome. And so I think we know each other really well, and I've chipped away at the players understanding and knowing me. But now, again, the recurring theme here is there's just no substitute for being on the field with them and for being in the huddle and going through practices and evaluating practices. And so it will be a new day for us. As far as the percentage about where, what my goal is to install when we leave, I don't know if I have an exact figure or formula for that. I think each year and each season is different. Obviously, being new, I want to go at an aggressive pace, but I don't want to go at such a pace. And I'm talking about the install here, right? I'm not talking about in between, huddles or whatever in between the whistle. But I want to go at a pace that challenges our players, but it doesn't handcuff our players. And so that's kind of my mentality going into this. Is the first week we kind of did one install for the whole first 3 days. It's kind of an aggressive install, but Thursday will be a little bit better than Tuesday, and Saturday hopefully will be a little bit better than Thursday. And so that's the mindset coming into it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Doug.
Hey, Barry, good to see you again. I'm curious, offensive line, I mean, it seems like you have a lot of guys who can maybe play in a few different spots. How do you go about sorting that out here in these spring ball practices?
Well, I think you have patience. I think that's a good question, Joey. Not that the other questions have been good. Those have been good too, guys. Sorry. But, I think it's patience. It's a shell game a little bit, and I think we have some flexibility with the guys that we have athletically, watching them during mat drills and watching some of the stuff that they did last year, and the new faces that are here with us. So we have an interesting group from that standpoint. And so I think it's just the mindset. And this is really true for just generally speaking, offensively and football in general. But this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And that's a little bit self-talk for me as a coach, as offensive coordinator. Because, you want to do everything in one day. You want to get everything solidified, and you want to get it taught and be perfect the first day. And you want to have your lineups short up. And so you can get some unison and, unity as far as playing and chemistry up front. It's just not going to happen. We got a starting point, and then through repetitions, through, evaluations, through competition, hopefully at the end of the 15 days, we'll have a really good feel of how that's all going to sort out. But the beginning, I think the theme beginning wise, is just some flexibility of guys being able to move from, guard to tackle and tackle to guard and just finding our right lineup for our best five.
The wide receiver wise, what have you learned kind of about those guys in the time that you've been in Champaign?
Well, I think I've started to learn their personalities and who they are a little bit, and seeing their movement skills and obviously watching some of the film from last year. So I think I've got a pretty good feel for who they are. But I think it's important to note, so whether you're a guy that has, played for 3 years here or, 5 years, and Palcho's case, I don't know how many years that'd be, quite a few years, no years. Listen, this is all in order, and there's got to be a starting point based on, what we just feel like is the best decision for us starting day one. But it's to a large degree, from my perspective, it's a clean slate, and that's not neither good nor bad. It's just, it is what it is, right? So I'm anxious to watch these guys compete and develop each day, and because they have really shown from top to bottom, position across position, they've really shown a real hunger to learn and to get a hold of this offense from a terminology. There's just constantly guys up here on their own asking for some, more time to help, learn a nugget here, a nugget two about the offense. And so just from particular, from a wideout standpoint, Isaiah, the way he moves, and Casey Strong, and Compete, and Pat, and, Kamari, and Brian Hightower, and Miles Scott, and I could go on and on about when you start naming names. I think that can be dangerous. At this point in the season, without even going through a practice. And so I'm excited to see all the young guys, Sean and Ian, on and on. So what have I learned about the receivers is probably about the same amount that I've learned about the other positions, about kind of who they are, what their movement skills are. And now we'll go watch them play football.
Thanks, Barry. Appreciate it.
Barry, I asked this based off of your, experience at the college level, but what do you like about your tight end room? And do you foresee a scenario in which you could go to multiple tight end scenarios, even coming out of the spring, with somebody being able to play with Luke on a consistent basis?
Well, I think, from a tight end standpoint, I think overall we've got some athletic bodies there. There's no doubt that we do. We've got a good mix of older and younger guys. I'm excited to see some of the younger guys mixed in with some of the older ones. It's my goal. My desire for us to be able to leave the spring and be able to get in multiple tight end sets. We plan on being on multiple tight end sets the first week for sure, even the first day. So just from a philosophical standpoint, that's going to be something important to us offensively to be able to do that. And what that means from the season standpoint, I don't know. We're going to determine that out of the post spring. But so I like the athleticism. I like the body types. I'm anxious to see them, run routes and catch the ball in our passing offense, and to see that come to fruition a little bit. And but I'm just excited about working with them in general. And yeah, my vision is for us to use multiple tight end sets.
Do you foresee a scenario kind of like Coach Bielema told us that that you'll have a more hands-on approach, being one coach down, specifically at that position during the spring?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Just yeah, I think that'll happen kind of organically. It kind of happens the way I coach anyway. Just being out there, especially with me, the offense being new. And although, I know there's no doubt in my mind that our coaches have really done a great job of, learning and mastering the terminology and the offense. But at the end of the day, this is something that this is the offense that I brought here and installed. And so, I should be the one that knows the details and the intricacies of it to be able to communicate even on the field. And especially at that position, that's something that I'll have to do as far as picking up the slack. That'll happen, I think, pretty naturally.
Thanks, Barry. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet, Matthew.
Barry, to follow up, obviously your offense is different, and that's why, and you're different. That's why Coach B is bringing you in. But what is the biggest change for the rest of the staff or these players in transitioning to this offense this spring?
Well, I think it's probably twofold. Obviously, first the vernacular, right? Learning the new language, because like I said a minute ago, there's only so many plays, right? There's also so many terms in football. I mean, so some of the terms that we've used are kind of mean something different that maybe what meant in previous years, right? So that the vernacular creates a little bit of a challenge, but that's kind of I think kids and players and coaches, anybody's been in football, they just kind of understand that, each year and each system means something different. So that that does create a challenge. And I think the other thing obviously is just maybe what's going on between the whistle, between the balls being snapped, when you run a play, and then when the next play's run, just what we're going to do just in general, not consistently, not every snap, but there's going to be some differences there. And maybe the pace that we play with, how the play's communicated, i.e. no huddle or back up on the ball. And so those are the types of things that would be unique to what we're in the transition, and not unique in football. And to be honest with you, not high school or previous system here. We're used to doing something maybe a little bit more comparable to what this is going to look like. I'm not saying, we're going to huddle. There's going to be times we huddle. There's going to be times where, that we do those things, but those two to me would be the biggest challenges.
And these guys have gone through, a lot of these guys have gone through transition before at coordinator. How have they kind of seen them respond to you? How have you kind of seen them, bring this in, especially after last year not having that much success?
Well, they've been great. I mean, from just across the board at every position, and it's been really, really good. I mean, it really has been, and really that's kind of been on a, the relationship there hasn't gotten real deep with a lot of those guys. We're chipping away at it, but ultimately there's no substitute for being in the heat of the battle with these guys. And that heat of the battle for us is spring practice. That's a daily grind. It's a weekly grind. It's a lot of meetings together. It's me getting up in front of them and running meetings, and that's starting to come to fruition a little bit more each day as we move forward. So that only strengthens that relationship. But they have been wonderful so far, and I would anticipate that to continue and only strengthen as we get going with football.
Great, thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Coach, you stepped into a pretty good situation with the running back room on this team. So my question about that would be, as a play caller, do you have an overriding philosophy? Are you a feed the studs kind of guy, a system guy, or a little bit of both?
Yeah, I mean, I think just, generally speaking, you got to think players, not plays, right? I mean, that's, to your point about feed the studs or whatever. I don't have that necessarily vernacular. I love saying vernacular. That's my word day to day for some reason, but that, I don't have feed the studs mantra, but really that's what it comes down to, right? Is like, listen, you got to think players, not plays. And I'm talking about that's not every down, every minute of an offensive scheme, but certainly we want to get the ball to the guys that deserve it, and you earn the right to get the ball. That's not given. And that's something I'm excited to watch these guys at every position go out on a daily basis here and earn the right to get the football. And I know we've got some talent there, and we've got to run the football. You win championships, you win conference championships through running the football, and that's never going to change. And that's going to be the starting point of who we are offensive. We got to run the football. We got to run it well, and that's all guys across all positions. That's all 11 guys on the field. Wide receivers blocking on the perimeter, got up front. Quarterbacks doing their part in the run game to keep the boxes, from being overloaded. And obviously the running backs, but we're going to think players, not plays.
Thank you.
Hey, Barry, one more about Tommy. Beyond like on the field, seeing how they throw the ball, how you guys interact, and these kind of 1-year deals with one another. How do you go about building and quickly building, I guess, that trust just person to person between the two of you?
Experiences. I mean, really just experiences. Playing or practice experiences when you're going against a defense and you're in that film room and you're getting things corrected, heat of the battle, so to speak. And then obviously working on those things off the field as well. There's got to be a twofold part of that relationship. It can't just be all football all the time. And I think those can't be fabricated. And it's not just about the quarterback, but it is important at that position, obviously, to really get inside their head, for them to know you to know them. And there's just no substitute, for being out there with a guy. It strengthens bonds. It strengthens those coaching player relationship. When you give them information that helps them and they receive it and they go apply it, that strengthens the level of trust, right? And at the end of the day, that's, my goal is to earn their trust as their coordinator. And I have a responsibility to do that. And the way you do that is you just be truthful over the course of time. That's really what trust is. It's just truth over the course of time. And if I can continue to instill enough truth in them and the way I coach them and the way I approach them, then ultimately that ends up being you earning trust in life that way.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate it.
Good.